It's 3:15, and that means it's time for
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is the real deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. There's been so many things happening throughout the comic book industry. I'm finally getting to this one. I think the news came out early Monday that ComiXology is in the Scott Snyder business. Best Jacket Press and ComiXology have come to an agreement. They're going to release 8 brand new Scott Snyder titles with an array of fantastic artists on ComiXology. They will eventually be released in print by Dark Horse Comics. And here to talk with me about that is a good friend of mine, comic book writer, editor, Aaron Sparrow. He also does the ordering for a couple of shops in his area. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing fantastic.
So I saw this news and I'm pretty excited about it. I know you have taken a different stance on Scott Snyder's Best Jacket Press agreement with ComiXology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors involved here that I think could turn out negative, but it may also, I'm interested in your perspective because it may turn out being a positive move for comics overall. I'm not seeing it yet. I can't see the advantages to this yet. So I'm interested in your perspective on this.
I say it's good news because we have a big name creator, making an agreement with ComiXology for 8 brand new titles. We've got, Greg Capullo, Manapul, Jock, a host of really good high profile artists. That means ComiXology is investing a ton of money in these original properties. There's no way that they were able to get Scott Snyder and these artists to come over on the cheap. That means they're investing money in the platform and looking to grow its presence and its reach. Now, I wish they would bring the price down and be more competitive with Shonen Jump, but that's another conversation. So I think that, in and of itself, is a very good sign that ComiXology obviously is under the parent company Amazon. That's kind of a big deal. They have a budget. Apparently, it's been expanded, and they are investing heavily in a very well-known creator. I think that can only be good. I do think the future of comic books, a vast majority of growth in Western comics are going to be as a result of investment in digital platforms, and basically your tablet being the spinner rack, where younger people would discover comic books for the first time in their pharmacy, in a grocery store with the spinner rack with Spider-Man or whatever. I think that is going to be the tablet in the future, and this is another step towards that into legitimizing ComiXology and other digital platforms as a great entry point for comic books. That's why I'm optimistic.
Okay, I agree with everything you just said, but here's why I'm pessimistic. The person that is in charge of marketing at ComiXology is Chip Mosher, who I used to work with at Boom. And Chip Mosher is a person who used to delight in saying that there hadn't been a good comic book since Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. And so my question for him was always, how are you in charge of promoting comics when you don't believe that there's anything good being produced? So that's my first, and I don't think he's a very effective marketing guy. Now, full disclosure, I don't have any great love for Chip Mosher. I liked him while I worked there. He did have some personality traits that I did not enjoy, but I did like him as a person. What I did not care for, though, is the way that he treated professionals, the way that he talked about them behind closed doors and would tear them apart, and the way didn't even have the guts to come on a show like I do and talk about his personal feelings. But he also was instrumental in trying to discredit me and destroy my career when I left Boom. So full disclosure, I do have a little bit of a side eye when it comes to Chip Mosher.
A little personal animosity?
I wouldn't say animosity because I don't really care that much, but just a general distrust and not a very. I don't really have any confidence in his ability as a marketing person. The ComiXology Originals that they've put out have largely been ignored and done nothing. Obviously, you're hiring some big names to try and prop up your originals, Scott Snyder and things like that. But that's only going to appeal to people that already know who Scott Snyder is, and B, people who are interested in Scott Snyder doing anything other than DC characters. And I think that those numbers are much lower. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, obviously, they don't have to report their numbers to us, but I think we'll see how many people are talking about this as the books come out. which is
Well, I think
pretty
this
much
is
the gauge of success for the ComiXology Originals, in that nobody talked about any of those.
I think if this is successful, we will see ComiXology announcing new agreements within the next 12 months. Obviously, you won't be able to tell initially. They'll have to get everything signed and start working on. But it is going to be a while before we can even gauge how successful this is, whether this has been a fruitful venture. And I imagine the only way that it's going to be judged as fruitful is new subscribers to ComiXology Unlimited, for the most part.
Yeah, no, that'll be the measuring stick. Is do these people put butts in the seats? And do people want to read their books digitally? Obviously there's an audience for it. It's not as large as we've been told. It's not anywhere near that. I have somebody who I used to work with who used to have access to ComiXology's numbers, and they're not great. So, this is a big move on. Obviously they've got the deep pockets of Amazon. They've got money to burn. So we'll see. We'll see if this turns a profit or if this is just throwing good money after bad.
But Amazon isn't exactly a charity. They don't like to throw away money. I think they like to invest in things that they see as potential moneymakers in the future. So that's why I'm optimistic. Let's talk about some of these titles. We've got Barnstormers, which appears to be some type of World War I or World War II pilot story by Scott Snyder and Tula Lotay, female pilots. I don't see this one being all that successful or interesting, but we do have the Book of Evil. The name alone suggests that it should be good. Scott Snyder and Jock, a known commodity. Obviously, they did the Black Mirror at DC Comics, really launched Scott Snyder into superstardom, working on a horror book. What else we got? Canary, Scott Snyder and Dan Panosian. Appears we got some 6-shooters on there, so it's probably something like a Western, calling it a horror Western. That's got some appeal to it. Clear, this is the one where Francis Manapul, like a sci-fi book. Duck and Cover, that's got Rafael Albuquerque. Manga-influenced teen adventures set in strange post-apocalyptic America. Dudley Dotson and the Forever Machine. Jamal Igle, a rollicking adventure story about a boy, his dog, and a machine that controls time and space.
I'll be skipping that one.
Yeah, Scott Snyder, Francavilla's Night of the Ghoul, more horror stuff, and we have Demons, which is Greg Capullo. I think the horror books are all going to be well received and are definitely in Scott Snyder's wheelhouse. Obviously, you got Greg Capullo and some really good artists, Jock on those. Some of the other ones seem a bit more like a waste of time, but hey, there's a little bit of range as far as genre, and I don't know if I'm interested in a Scott Snyder. We have Demons with Greg Capullo. Everything that they've done together has been pretty much good, except for Dark Knight's death metal.
Yeah, the lineup of artists, it's a great lineup of artists, and Jamal Igle. So, I think that's a bigger draw for me than Scott Snyder necessarily, especially after Scott Snyder brought out the long knives on the whole Warren Ellis situation. I was kind of disappointed in him as somebody who has been targeted by cancel culture himself. I thought that he really kind of capitulated there, but that's a personal issue, and I can separate art from what I think of the artist. So I think that these are intriguing, and I think that the reason that Amazon is investing this money in it is because there's probably some sort of first look deal attached for developing them into Amazon Prime, videos or movies and whatnot. So I'm sure. Well,
basically everything Scott Snyder, full disclosure, has done outside of DC Comics has been a Netflix. Hey, this is what you could put on your show. When you look at Undiscovered Country and Nocterra. Storyboards,
I think has been really good. So I think that's. But I think Nocterra is also one that would have to come with a budget attached. Obviously, Undiscovered Country would have somewhat of a budget attached, but it's just such a boring story. I can't imagine anybody being particularly interested in it. It's not lighting the world on fire with sales either. So I don't know. I don't know how the Hollywood types view these sorts of things when you come in and you spread out these issues on their desk. What do they think? Do they do any research to determine whether or not anybody even likes these concepts, or do they just go, oh, there's like 40 books on my desk, this must be great?
It's certainly a continuation of some things that we've seen within the comic book industry. Nick Spencer is on Amazing Spider-Man. the biggest title at Marvel Comics, and he's left early to go work on Substack. They're getting into the comic book business. We've recently seen some high-profile editors. I believe Jamie Rich quit DC Comics. I think he just got hired over at Tapas. We've also seen, obviously, Scott Snyder still associated with DC Comics, but he ain't exactly writing comics for him anymore. Now he's going over working for ComiXology. It feels like there's a lot less emphasis as far as major creators on the big two, and people are trying to go out there and find other avenues where they can invest in themselves and really create a lot of these high-profile IPs. We've also got Grant Morrison leaving DC Comics to go work on that NBC Universal comic imprint that they created as well.
I think the train's leaving the station on the direct market, on the mainstream industry. The rates aren't there. It's people see the writing on the wall. They know that things are getting bad. They know that these moves that the companies are making that are supposed to help might actually hurt. One of the shops I order for, we're very much about to cut New Comics completely, just because with Marvel moving over to Penguin and DC having moved over to Lunar, the discounts aren't there. And to hit the discount tiers that you need to make carrying the books worth the real estate in your store, you need to have a higher profit margin. And when you're splitting books amongst 3 distributors, you're going to lose that. So I think pros see what's coming. At least you're more savvy pros, and the ones that aren't out there saying, on the deck of the Titanic, saying this is fine, this is fine, this is fine.
Tim Seeley.
Yeah, I always got to champion Tim a little bit, just because dude was super nice to me at a Wizard World where we were both miserable, and bought me some beers. So I can't talk too harshly about Tim, but Tim's definitely a cheerleader for an industry that I don't think is doing many things that are cheerworthy right now. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's exactly what's happening is people see the writing on the wall and they're securing their future because the direct market doesn't really have one.
Well, we're seeing DC and Marvel kind of maintaining the status quo. New comics for Marvel in October are coming out at $6 a pop. We're seeing some price increases and everything. And I think you're right. The high-profile creators are going, this doesn't feel quite as secure as it did pre-pandemic. Obviously, we got pencils down with Marvel. The entire industry shut down for weeks. Almost 2 months total. The lines came down. They stopped producing as many comic books. And I think a lot of creators started looking at their careers and realizing that they needed to get out there and start finding new avenues to ply their trade. So I salute Scott Snyder and his deal with ComiXology. It's a bold move on their part. They certainly see him as a good investment. He brought along the talent. I imagine he said, listen, I can bring along the A-list art talent. I've worked with all of them at DC Comics, and he absolutely brought them in tow. And well, like I said, we're seeing Grant Morrison, even editors like Jamie Rich, Nick Spencer and others are all going out there, figuring out their own ways. James Tynion obviously is doing a lot of work on indies and stuff like that. So it's a new day in comic books. I personally see
he's ready for all the emotional labor they're going to have to apparently do dealing with Scott Snyder. I've read that he forces people to do emotional labor.
My goodness. One of these days I want to record our conversations and be like, man, that Sparrow, he's got a lot of emotional baggage. I know, man.
Right?
Just getting him ready for a conversation on the channel is work.
That's right. He's like, oh man, he's always telling me his problems. Jeez. I don't know. I kind of thought when that whole thing was exposed, I thought to myself, yeah, you know what Scott Snyder was asking you to do? He thought you were his friend and he was confiding in you. That was his great crime. But these people are sociopaths. They just
well, it looks like he's identified the people that he can trust and he's bringing them with him. So I will give him kudos for that as well. No, you got to bring the people that you trust and that have done good work for you and helped you be successful, and you got to bring them along with you.
Yeah, you definitely do, and I think that it's more secure. You're going to be more cancel-proof at a company like Amazon if you're making them money than you are at a comic book company. Right now it just seems that comic book companies are so terrified of the Twitter mob that any accusation, unfounded or whether it's whether it's factual or completely unfounded, they will let you go for just because they're terrified of 16 sock puppet accounts on Twitter screeching into the abyss. So I think that it's a good move for him. It insulates him a little bit more from the more shall we say, hysterical elements of the comic book reading community, and he's bringing along his people. So hopefully everybody's making more money. You know, that's what I want to see. I want to see creators having more flexibility and more creative freedom, more insulation from the psychopaths on Twitter, and the ability to make a better living. So good on him. I hope it works out. Like I said, I have my reservations about how successful it might be, but you know, hopefully I'm proven wrong and it becomes a new source for creators to go and get nice paychecks.
I don't know that it's going to be successful, and if you made me put a bet on it, I would say I would lean to this not really bearing a ton of fruit. I think they might find that people just the amount of people that are on ComiXology are almost the amount of people that are going to be on ComiXology. But it's a good sign people are investing money in the industry and there's new money coming in, because Amazon could sit on their laurels and not invest any money and just let DC and Marvel and other companies supply them with material and throw it on ComiXology and leave it there. So it's a good sign.
They want to own a stake in the material because they want to develop these things into other media. So I think that this is it's an investment on their part to see if there's anything they can mine for the future. Because while they may not make a lot of money on the comic book end of it, if they could turn it into a successful Prime show, then that's something that they can all
They get one successful streaming show out of this, it'll be more than worth their money, I imagine.
Absolutely. So.
Interesting stuff. Aaron, I do want to say thank you very much for coming on and talking to me about this. You were a little bit more skeptical than I am, although I am thinking cynical, so I am skeptical about it. But just looking at it, this is good news.
It's definitely good news for Scott Snyder and for the artists involved. So that's a win in my book. Anytime creator, I'm always happy to see people making money.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.